most of you know, I haven't really been around the island for about a month. I kind of drifted away, but don't be mistaken. I have been trying to keep up with some of the newer happenings, and I'm well aware of the Colorado trip, and I'm well aware of David and all of the random things that's been going on. Okay, there's a lot around David, and many people believe him, and then there is some that doesn't believe a word he says. And as you all know, he did the whole Daily Mail thing, and if you don't know, which is I'm sure you already do, he did reach out to Daily Mail. He said himself right here that he...
They did not see my article on Armchair Detective. I actually reached out to Daily Mail, and then they contacted me.
Okay. So you contacted Daily Mail.
Yeah, they didn't contact me.
And why did you contact them?
Because I knew that they probably wanted to hear some of that stuff, so
So you basically wanted to put the stuff out there.
Yeah, I knew. And the stories or the conversations I had with Chris.
And were you hoping to like get something from that? Like what were you hoping to gain from that?
Well, I don't expect to gain anything from anything. I think that if I knew what was going to happen, that I probably wouldn't have done any of it. I would just kept the information to myself.
What did you think would happen?
Well, I didn't think it was going to blow up like this. It's affecting my family, my lives, or my life. So if I could go back...
didn't you... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
If I could go back, I would definitely go back and redo all of it.
Yeah.
He's the one that reached out to them. They did not reach out to him. And he gave his story. Okay, there was a really, really big deal last week, and it was everywhere, that it has now been confirmed that Chris is still in contact with the mistress, NK. Okay, and that came from David to the Daily Mail. Now, not only did Daily Mail cover this, so did Fox News. So we're going to take a look at the article that Daily Mail posted, and as you will see here, Fox News covered it as well. It's been covered a lot that Chris is still in contact with Nicole because of David talking to Daily Mail. Okay, David was not exclusive to Daily Mail like Daily Mail said. No. He actually went on another YouTube channel, Armchair Detective, and many of you have already seen that. And Armchair Detective interviewed him well before Daily Mail did. And it seemed like the story that he told Armchair Detective and then the story that he told Daily Mail didn't really coincide. Okay, and then he happened to be in the chat of a live recently, like within the last couple of days. And the channel owner asked him to just come up, David, and talk to us, because we got some questions, and he did. Okay, all that said, I've got bits and pieces of these interviews, this report, kind of trying to put everything together here. I'm also going to give you a small rundown on who David actually is, at the best that I could find out who he is. And a lot of you may have already dug deeper into David and know even more than that. But I got enough to know that David absolutely was in Dodge with Chris. There's no disputing that. He was there at the same time Chris was. Absolutely. He was actually there when Chris was first brought in December of 2018. And then in 2019, at some point, he left, but then he was brought back there last year. Okay, so without further ado, let's look at this Daily Mail article. And the headline read, "There is an exclusive. The mistress for whom Chris Watts murdered his wife and children is still in touch with him 3 years after changing her name and going into hiding." So that reads like she had her name changed 3 years ago, but we know that's not the case. If the name change actually did go through, and I'm not even sure that it did, I've heard both scenarios on that. And the other YouTube creator, Scott Reish, the attorney in Colorado, actually went to the names change hearing, and about the only information that he himself could get was it was sealed. He gave a few explanations or whatever he thought the reason could have possibly been, but who knows. It's never been 100% confirmed, as far as I know, whether the name change did actually go through or not. Some say it didn't, because I don't know why she just couldn't. At the time, she was not granted. I don't know. Or maybe she was. Who knows? Really doesn't matter. I mean, really, it doesn't matter what her name is, in my opinion. Okay, it goes on to say the mistress who Chris murdered his family to be with is back in touch with him 3 years after changing her identity and disappearing. The killer has claimed from jail. Watts said his mistress, Nicole Kessinger, wrote to him inside the Dodge Correctional Institute under her new name. Fellow inmate David Carter revealed in an exclusive interview with Daily Mail. He told me, she said, that she needed to speak with him to clear some things up, Carter said, but he wouldn't tell me exactly what she had said. The article was published March the 31st, 2021. Okay, but on March the 20th, he appeared on Armchair Detective, and when he was asked a question about Chris.
Has NK contacted him? Do you know? In prison?
I don't think I know that he still remembers contact her, and so I don't think they have any contact together.
So as you see, that kind of goes different what he said 11 days before this interview. And now he says that Chris told him that she needed to speak with him to clear some things up.
She reached out to him and contacted him and said that she needed to talk to him. And they found the letter, and they found out that it came from Nicole Kessinger instead of someone else. So a lot of the article, they did fabricate. Some of it is true. I didn't say that Chris specifically told me that Nikki was writing him. I believe I said that it was rumored that she might have been the one to write. Because that's what Dylan told me. As far as...
So in my opinion, that's definitely an inconsistency. Now hang with me, and you will see that he was asked about this.
The discrepancies between our interview and the newspaper. Did the newspaper report what you said, or did they sort of embellish stuff?
They got some of it right, but then they also twisted what I said and made stuff that they put in there. So I didn't say all that, but they did get majority of it right.
Kessinger, 32, took a new identity and moved from her home in Arvada, Colorado, after Watts was arrested for killing his pregnant wife and their 2 daughters in August of 2018. He is currently serving 5 life sentences plus 48 years in prison without the possibility of parole. Watts told pen pal Sherilyn Cadle in 2019 that he was still in love with Kessinger and believed that some of the letters he received in prison were from her writing under assumed names. Ada went on to write a book about their correspondence called Letters from Christopher. Now Carter has backed those claims that Kessinger does write to the man whose crime shocked the nation, or at least that Watts believes she does. Carter, who was released from Dodge on February the 27th, said it was back in September last year that Watts, 35, told him that Kessinger was writing to him. Watts claimed that prison authorities discovered what was happening and punished him by suspending his email account, carefully monitoring his mail. He wasn't supposed to have any contact with her, but she initiated it by writing to him. Wisconsin Department of Corrections spokesman John Beard said he could comment on Carter's claims. So see, Daily Mail actually did get a hold of the Department of Corrections in Wisconsin spokesperson, and he said that he could comment on these claims. So obviously he could back up Carter's claims. But here's the thing. It says here that Chris was not supposed to have any contact with Nicole. Okay, why would that be? Yeah, Nicole's got a little bit of a background back when she was younger, maybe early 20s, late teens, I don't know, just some little misdemeanor things, not really a big deal. No felonies. So there would really be no absolute reason that Chris would be told he cannot be in contact with her. So see, that part just doesn't make sense to me at all. She's not incarcerated anywhere, as far as I know. She's just a free person out here in the free world, so why would there be something saying he was not supposed to have contact with her? What is up with that? There's no other explanation unless there's still some sort of open investigation. I am not throwing any accusations out there. Please do not think I am. I'm just trying to understand why Chris would not supposed to have any sort of contact with her. There's got to be a reason, especially when Daily Mail reached out to the Wisconsin Department of Corrections spokesman, John Beard, and John said, yeah, I can comment on these claims, right? They obviously done some fact checking before they printed this. That's what I'm assuming, as well as Fox News picked it up too. So it makes you wonder, what would be the situation with that? I would love to know. Kessinger and Watts both worked for the oil company Anadarko and met at work. Watts told her that he was separated from his wife. When he eventually confessed to the murders, he told investigators it was because he wanted to be with her. She is still living in hiding more than 2.5 years after the murders. Carter, 34, said Watts told him that he killed Shanann because he didn't want to pay child support. He did not want the son that she was expecting, and he feared that his wife would take their home in Frederick, Colorado in a divorce.
Watts told you that he killed Shanann because he didn't want to pay any child support. And he didn't want the son that she was expecting. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
What was his actual words, David, please? If you can remember.
That he didn't want the baby. He didn't want to pay child support. He was afraid that Shanann was going to take the house, and he wanted to be with his mistress.
Okay, their home was already, basically, for the most part, in foreclosure. Chris was pretty adamant he wanted to sell that home and downsize, and so why was he in fear that she was going to take his home? I mean, Why wouldn't he, even if it wasn't in foreclosure, he should just walk away, and leave the home for her and the kids, right? I mean, obviously. But yeah, he was in fear that she would take it and he would have to pay child support. Don't buy any of that, though, said Carter, who was jailed for meth possession and for stealing money from his employers, the restaurant chain Arby's. Well, he also had this charge that's not mentioned here. I didn't ever kill my entire family just because I didn't want a child or didn't want to pay child support. I have a lot of things going on in my life, but I have never wanted to stop and kill my entire family because I wanted certain things to go my way. He told me he thought the oil would disintegrate the bodies, Carter told DailyMail.com. Carter is now living in a halfway house in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and he said that Watts keeps pictures of his 2 daughters pinned up in his cell, but there is no pictures of Shanann. He told me that he has nightmares every night. It's always the same of the 2 girls standing in his cell playing catch. Since October, he has been sharing a cell with another child killer, Marcus M.J. Johnson, who was sentenced to 40 years in 2015 for reckless homicide. He killed his girlfriend's 3-year-old son by dipping him in scalding hot water because he had soiled his pants. At trial, Johnson said little Hunter's death was an accident and he hadn't tested the temperature of the water. Hunter's injuries also showed he had been punched in the mouth and whipped. Their cell is about 6 feet by 8 feet, so it's not very big for 2 people. But MJ and Chris get on real well, and they look out for each other. Chris sleeps on the bottom bunk and MJ on the top. Carter's cell was just across the hall. Chris gets a lot of death threats from other prisoners, and so does MJ, because of what they both did. So they weren't able to put either of them in with just anyone. Chris had previously been placed in a single cell and was disciplined in July of last year after several of his possessions, including boxer shorts, lubrication, and baby oil, were found in his friend Dylan Tallman's cell. In an exclusive interview with DailyMail.com, Tallman's then-girlfriend, Krista, insisted that the 2 men were not lovers, but Carter insists that Watts and Tallman are having a relationship behind bars.
They were indeed lovers. They had an intimate relationship together. They always talked to each other. They spent 16 hours a day on the wall talking to each other.
Dylan's there, and there's an outlet for a plug, and he takes that out, and you can speak to the other cell through the hole, right?
Right. The walls is together, or those outlets are together, and like there's an outlet, so if you talk through the outlet, you can hear each other pretty good. So they, according to Dylan, they spent 16 hours a day talking to each other and talking about the appeal, and I don't really know what they talked about because I obviously wasn't around for that, but I just know that they spent a lot of time talking.
Has Chris
Okay, if you're not aware of who Dylan is,
talked about Dylan's background and his history, and Dylan is very litigious, so he has a lot of lawsuits he's basically suing everybody. So that kind of gave us like an idea of who we're dealing with, and it wasn't difficult to surmise that Dylan's motives might not be the clearest or the purest.
at the end I will link a video I made telling you all about Dylan, and they're going to say they are indeed lovers. They definitely were having an intimate relationship. They spent all their time together, and officers told me they had evidence that they were in a relationship. Carter said that while he was behind bars, he filed a harassment complaint against Tallman, who is serving time for burglary and other offenses. Dylan got Krista to send me $40 so I would not pursue the complaint, but he didn't tell her what it was for.
Moved off the Unit 11, I went into Krista's cell, and I was talking to Dylan through the wall.
So you became Dylan's next
Yeah, I was the next.
toy thing.
I was in Krista's old cell.
So he just started bullying you, right?
Yes.
I mean, it must have started. You were friends to start with. You didn't realize what was going to happen. I suppose it sort of built up over time, did it?
It did, yes.
And you reported this to the authorities.
I filed a complaint against it, yes.
And what's happening about that complaint? Because you're no longer at the prison.
I was forced to drop it. Dylan started threatening me and my family, so
You dropped it, right?
He had his girlfriend at the time put $40 on my books to try to keep me quiet too.
Krista did not respond to an email request or comment. Carter said women will still send dozens of letters to Chris, often including money, 50% of which goes towards the $6 million that a judge ordered him to pay Shanann's parents in a wrongful death lawsuit. I don't know for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if he receives up to $1,000 a week. He gets a lot of mail, probably from 10 to 20 people a day. Most of it is from admirers, both men and women. But he gets a lot of death threats too. He gets letters from people wanting to marry him, strangers who don't even know him personally. They just send him money. He doesn't reply to many, and he passes some of the mail on to other inmates. Other high-profile prisoners get sent money too, Carter said, naming killers like Brendan Dassey and Stephen Avery, who were featured in the 2015 Netflix docuseries Making a Murderer. Carter showed DailyMail.com a letter that Watts had sent to him last July, when Carter had been transferred to another prison in Wisconsin. It was full of biblical references, and see there again, inmate writing another inmate is odd. That's kind of against the rules. However, he actually has the envelope that's got the stamp. And you know, it's got the little stamp from the post office. It's got it all. He's got quote-unquote receipts. So, you know, take it for what you will. Chris has turned to God in a big way. He spends a lot of time reading the Bible, and he's actually a very caring person. Chris is working in the prison kitchen as a butcher, cutting up meat for prison meals. When not working, he spends hours in the prison law library, where he is preparing an appeal. And he's not going to get an appeal, so maybe that's the 35C. I think it's the one thing that keeps him going. He seriously thinks he is going to get out one day, although everyone else knows he never will. He failed a lie detector test, and he admitted to police that he had killed Shanann and the girls. He admitted it to his father. He admitted it to correction officers in Dodge. He admitted it to me. But he still says he was framed for the murders and that he wasn't even home when it happened. Many of the officers in Dodge think both he and Dylan Tallman are POS. But It's their job to protect him, and they do it well. Here's actually a photo that was taken by Daily Mail of David holding his letter from Chris. And of course, this is the letter with the envelope. But as you will see here, that even though it is true that I didn't think personally that inmates could actually write to other inmates, well, there you go. Look at this envelope. It is from Chris Watts, and it has his DOC number, and he's at Dodge Correctional Institute, and it is addressed to David Carter, Brown County Jail. So that is one inmate to another inmate, July 2020. So, I mean, there's your receipt. And of course, here is the back of the letter. And this says this is a mental note from Chris. It was dated December of 2019. And this is something that Chris supposedly, allegedly, gave to David. And this is going to be Dylan Tallman that you will hear David talk a lot about. And this was Krista. This was his girlfriend. She no longer is. They no longer communicate with each other. But there again, when they were, I did make a little segment video about them. And if you don't know who he is and you want to know a little bit more about him, because Dylan plays a big part in Chris, you can watch that video and find out more about him, what he's about, what he's in there for, things he's did, all those sorts of things. And Daily Mail also had just a little quick news article, and I'm going to play that right here.
The mistress of Colorado killer Chris Watts is apparently back in touch with him 3 years after she last spoke publicly. This was revealed exclusively by David Carter, a friend of Watts and fellow inmate.
She reached out to him and contacted him and said that she needed to talk to him. And they found the letter, and they found out that it came from Nicole Kessinger instead of someone else.
Kayla Brantley joins us now with more on this exclusive story. Kayla, what more have you learned?
So Thomas, David Carter says that Chris Watts wasn't supposed to have any contact with Kessinger, but she's the one who initiated it using her new identity. Watts also told Carter that he did murder his pregnant wife, Shanann, and 2 daughters because he didn't want to pay child support and instead wanted to be with Nicole Kessinger, who he calls Nikki. We also asked Carter about the allegations that Watts and fellow male inmate Dylan Tallman were in a relationship, which Tallman's girlfriend had previously denied.
They were indeed lovers. They had an intimate relationship together. They always talked to each other. They spent 16 hours a day on the wall talking to each other.
Carter says that despite never showing any remorse for the murders, Chris has turned to religion, signing letters in Christ. Chris.
Thanks, Kayla, and continue to bring us the very latest.
So what do you think? What do you think about what he said to Daily Mail as opposed to what he said in these interviews with these YouTube creators? Now, I want to give a second here to give a super big thank you so much for all the help to Theresa from Unmasked, Dr. B from True Psych Ward, and Alan, Armchair Detective, because they have contributed to parts of this video. And I highly encourage each of you to check out their channels, all linked in the description box below. All that said, as far as his inconsistencies goes, he did say Daily Mail sort of edited and twisted up some things, but he did say that the majority of everything that was said in his Daily Mail interview was what he actually said. Now, why he came out March the 20th and said no, that Chris had not talked about NK or talked about being back in contact with her, and then 11 days later told Daily Mail this, I don't know. I can't answer that. it does make one wonder why. David does know the ropes at Dodge. He definitely was there. Another thing is, why was it supposedly that Chris could not be in touch with NK? If that is true, and a spokesperson for the prison actually said that they could confirm what he was saying, then why? She's not an inmate. She's not a felon. So what other reason would it be that Chris would not be allowed to be in contact with her? Now, it's also said that Chris was disciplined for being in contact with NK. However, we have Chris's disciplinary records, and Dr. B even showed that in her life. It has nothing to do with his mail and who he was corresponding with. The only disciplinary record that we've ever seen Chris ever have, and we get them all, is the deal with Dylan and his items found in Dylan's room. Okay. David, I wish you the best. I do hope that you pick up your life and you move forward and you continue on, and you're still young and you can make a wonderful life for yourself and your children, and maybe put all the bad past behind you. I do wish that for you. And if you would like to ever speak with me and our subscribers here at Unjustified, just send me an email to this email address, and I will be more than happy to open my panel up for you to be able to answer questions for the subscribers here. I do wish you the very best, and thank you all so much for listening. And if you're not already subscribed, and if you're new here, go ahead and hit the subscribe button now. Give us a like, thumbs up, and we truly would appreciate it. And until next time, this is Unjustified.